Right, welcome back. So, before we went on the break, I did tell you that the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has for the second time maintained the policy rate at 26%. The bank last year pegged the policy rate at 26% and maintained that rate during its first meeting for this year in January. Let's quickly get onto the telephone lines and speak to a financial analyst, Kamal, Deen, who is joining us on the telephone lines now. Good evening, sir. We're grateful you could join us.
Good evening, Stevie.
So the Private Enterprise Federation believes that the maintaining the policy rate at 26% actually is not necessarily an incentive to business and growth in business. Do you feel same?
Yes, most of us were actually expecting a downward trend in the monetary policy rate, considering the fact that the Bank of Ghana itself had admitted that the economy was stabilizing. There were actually positive signs within the economy, and with the slowness, the stability of some of our indicators, we were expecting that at least the Bank of Ghana would have lowered the monetary policy rate so as to have a positive impact on businesses, as in the lending rate to the businesses.
Right, Mr. Kamal, I'll stop you there. But what indications did you have to make you have this hope that expectation? I beg your pardon. What indications did you have for you to have the expectations that the monetary policy rate should have dropped rather than maintained?
The Bank of Ghana itself had admitted that there had been a fairly stable or some stability had been achieved in as much of the currency market was concerned. The forex. Again, we are seeing a little drop in inflation for the February, and we expected that these among others were good indications that the economy was actually going to be stable for that time, and the cost of doing business should be at least lowered for these businessmen who are actually supposed to be the growth, the engine of growth for our economy.
Interesting. So at 26 is not exactly cheap anyway. And so if you were expecting it to drop to, say, 25 or 24, what impact is this 26 generally going to have? Because the Private Enterprise Foundation has said that it will be a disincentive. But exactly what will be the effect specifically?
Currently, we would expect that the bankers would maintain their interest rates. And then the interest rate, which is quoted at between 30 and then 35% on average, we believe that it's still very high and it's actually affecting the cost of doing business. If it actually was supposed to be lowered to say the 25, 24, it has a direct relationship with interest rates. And we would have been expecting the bankers to also lower the cost to do business, as in the lending rates, and that could have gone a long way to help these businesses in financing their activities.
So, Mr. Kamadin, do you expect or suspect that even though the Bank of Ghana has maintained the policy rate at 26, the commercial banks might perhaps review upwards their base rates and lending rates despite the maintaining of the policy rate at 26%?
I don't think they would do that. I believe, looking at all other indicators, they would also be maintaining. If none of them thinks about coming down, but nobody amongst them would think about going up again.
So, what's your prediction for the policy rate? Let's say in the next month or two.
I think their next meeting is in May. Would they expect that they at least reduce the rate a bit for us, so we could have an ease up on the cost of doing business, as in the lending rates.
But is this realistic, considering that we're in an election year and May will be inching closer to November, where I expect that spending in an election year is expected to go higher? So if the lending rate, the monetary policy, the policy rate is lowered, is that realistic?
Yes. I think that we have had a commitment from the government that this year there's going to be a tough decision to be made, and they have made that decision. They're not going to overexpend. And if that is really true, and if we can take them by their words, I think that that decision to actually lower would be in the right direction. Several things come to play, we all would agree. That is not going to be their only meeting for the year 2016. As and when the situation changes, they can either go up or go down. But what we are saying for now is that we would expect a downward review of it in their May sitting.
Right, Mr. Kamal Deen, we're grateful. Thanks very much for your time. Kamal Deen Mohammed. Kamal Deen is a financial analyst there, and you heard him, is expecting that in May, when the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana meets again, the policy rate will be reduced, let's say by a point or maybe 50% point backwards.